Thank you for joining us for this episode of Leading by Example, an informational video series where subject matter experts from Spectrum Healthcare Partners and Spectrum Management Services Company provide guidance and other resources to help patients, providers, and communities on timely healthcare topics. Effective communication is critical in times of crisis, but the magnitude and wide-ranging impact of COVID-19 has left even some of the most skilled communicators struggling to keep up. The experts agree that relying on the fundamentals is critical in times such as these. But what does that mean for healthcare organizations? Where should communicators be focusing their efforts, and how does it change for internal versus external audiences? In today's segment, Beth Austin, Vice President of Operations and Communications Expert, shares some strategies for managing communications during the COVID-19 crisis.
Hi, I'm Beth Austin, Vice President Operations at Spectrum Healthcare Partners and Spectrum Management Services Company. Thank you for joining us for this segment of Leading by Example. I'm looking forward to answering your questions about communications during the COVID-19 crisis. I completely agree that relying heavily on the basic principles of communication is critical now, and there are a few things in particular that we are focusing on here. For example, frequency and consistency. Across the organization, we are collaborating very closely to ensure consistent messages are getting out multiple times and in multiple ways. Keeping it simple is so important right now. A key driver of success in leading through times of change or crisis is understanding the underlying psychology of loss or fear. In these circumstances, the normal human reaction is to revert to a reptilian brain. This isn't a criticism or a negative judgment. This is a basic human instinct. When this happens, higher level cognitive thinking goes right out the window. Therefore, as a communicator, it's important to keep messages as simple as possible. I know there's a lot of complex information to be shared right now, but break it down as much as you can and convey it in easy to understand language. Even the smartest person in the room isn't going to want to work that hard right now. You're not insulting anyone or diminishing your credibility by using plain language. In fact, you're doing just the opposite. You're establishing yourself as an effective and trustworthy communicator. Managing competing needs is a challenge. A tricky thing right now is balancing the need for accuracy with the possibly even greater need for speed. It's okay not to know all the answers, and we're all kind of drinking from a fire hose with all of this, but people also have a huge desire for immediate information. Communication hates a vacuum for a reason. If you're not sending information to your employees or patients right now, they're going to find it somewhere else, or they're going to create their own truth. It's okay to frame messages with things are changing quickly, or here's what we know right now and we're working on it. This is the worst possible time to let the perfect get in the way of the very good. People will forgive typos. They'll be much less patient with a lack of responsiveness. This is a great question. And again, it all comes back to the fundamentals for me. A good way to think about this is with the basketball analogy. You always do layup drills in practice because when you get to a crucial moment in the game, you don't want to have to think about it. You want the muscle memory to kick in. A colleague of mine has a saying that the best time to plant a tree is either 10 years ago or right now. The point being in this case is that even if your organization's communication infrastructure is less than ideal, all is not lost. You can start now. It may be more challenging, but you can do it. Focus on the communication basics, be authentic, be clear, over-communicate. If you make a misstep, apologize and regroup. This is a stressful time for everyone, but people will be much more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt if you connect with them on a human level. It's also critically important right now to continue executing on your core values and brand attributes, both internally and externally. This may be the furthest thing from people's minds right now with everything that's going on, but fight this instinct and keep them at the forefront. These values are the basic tenets of who you are as an organization. Rely on them. It's never been more important from a communications perspective. So, there's been a lot of chatter on social media lately about a company's character being demonstrated based on how it treats its employees during this crisis. I think the same can be said about how they treat their customers, or in our case, patients. The strategy with external audiences is really not much different than internal ones, in the sense that you'll want to build from the communications foundation you've established, execute on fundamentals, and act in a way that demonstrates your core values and brand attributes. COVID-19 has created a seismic shift in our society, and the lens we use as communicators needs to change accordingly. Many have fears about going to the doctor, and that's a big concern since some of these people do have essential health needs, and waiting a month or 2 or 3 could be very harmful. We're encouraging patients to call their providers to determine whether they should get care now or postpone. It's been very interesting for me to see the way organizations are communicating so far during this crisis. It's been surprising to see who has adapted well and who hasn't, because there's really no correlation across industries or company size from what I've seen personally. And this is where the connection between operations and communications becomes so important. I think the best example I've heard so far is from a family member who lives in another state, and a retail store there preloads some shopping carts with toilet paper if they have it in stock. When customers get to the front of the line, they can choose a cart without the toilet paper if they don't want it or need it, but what a huge relief and convenience for those who do. What I've been thinking about, and what every healthcare communicator should also be thinking about, is what's our strategy post-COVID? Think about whatever the thing is that's equivalent to pre-populating the carts with toilet paper for your organization. We need to anticipate needs and concerns and answer people's questions before they even ask them. This is how we'll differentiate. I'm Beth Austin, Vice President Operations at Spectrum Healthcare Partners and Spectrum Management Services Company. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Leading by Example. If you have questions or comments, please contact us, as we may have resources that can be helpful to you. Be well.